I buried my 8-year-old son on a gray morning that felt strangely ordinary. The birds still sang. Cars still passed beyond the cemetery gates. People still checked their phones. The world refused to stop simply because mine had. There were only a handful of people standing beside me. My son's teacher came. Our elderly neighbor quietly squeezed my shoulder before leaving without saying much. The funeral director spoke gently, giving me all the time I needed after everyone else had stepped away. My family never arrived. At first, I kept checking my phone, convincing myself they had been delayed by traffic or had gone to the wrong cemetery. I wanted to believe there was some mistake. There wasn't. A few hours later, someone sent me a photograph by accident. It showed my parents, my brother, his wife, and several relatives gathered around a long dining table. Crystal glasses were raised high, bottles of champagne sat in silver buckets. Everyone was smiling. The message attached to the picture read, "Tonight we celebrate the future." I stared at it for a long time before another message followed. "They're already talking about the 2.5 million. Your brother says construction on the estate can finally begin." I set the phone face down and sat alone in silent house. Grief does strange things. It doesn't always make you cry. Sometimes it simply empties every room inside you until there is nothing left except quiet. As the days passed, memories I had ignored for years became impossible to dismiss. My parents had always insisted they loved us equally, yet somehow my brother always received the larger opportunities, the better explanations, the endless second chances. When my son was born, they congratulated us politely before leaving early for one of my brother's business dinners. When my son won his first school award, they forgot to attend because my brother was shopping for a new vacation property. I had spent years translating disappointment into excuses for them. After the funeral, I finally stopped translating. A week later, I received a call from the law office handling my late uncle's estate. The attorney sounded surprised. "There are documents requiring your presence before any distribution can proceed." I almost declined. Money felt meaningless. Nothing could purchase another bedtime story, another birthday, another chance to hear my son's laugh. Still, I attended. The conference room was already full. My brother looked unusually confident. My parents spoke excitedly about architects and landscaping, as though everything had already been decided. No one asked how I was sleeping. No one mentioned my son. The attorney waited until everyone had signed the attendance sheet before opening a sealed envelope. "I believe there has been a misunderstanding," she said calmly. The room became still. She explained that my uncle had amended his estate plan shortly before his death. The inheritance was never intended to finance private luxury. Most of the assets had been placed into a charitable foundation supporting children's grief, counseling, pediatric hospice services, and scholarships for families facing the loss of a child. Then she looked directly at me. "My client appointed you as the foundation's sole trustee." Silence settled over the room. My brother spoke first. "There has to be some mistake." "There isn't," the attorney replied. She carefully slid the signed documents across the table. Every signature had been verified, every amendment had been witnessed. Every legal requirement had been satisfied. My parents searched each page in disbelief. The future they had celebrated no longer existed. No one shouted, no dramatic arguments filled the room, only the soft sound of paper turning and the uncomfortable realization that assumptions are not ownership. My brother eventually looked at me. "You could change this." I shook my head. "No," I answered quietly. "I won't. Not because I wanted revenge, because my uncle understood something I hadn't until I buried my son. Some losses should make the world kinder, not richer." The attorney closed the meeting. That simple action ended months of expectations with a single unmistakable decision. Outside the building, my parents hurried toward me. They wanted to explain, to apologize, to tell me they had been overwhelmed. Maybe they believed those words. Maybe they even meant them. But grief had changed something fundamental inside me. I realized forgiveness and access were not the same gift. I wished them well. Then I walked away before anyone could continue the conversation. Over the following year, the foundation quietly funded counseling for parents whose homes had become unbearably silent. Children received support after losing siblings. Hospice nurses received additional training. Scholarships reached families who never expected strangers to remember them. Each report I reviewed reminded me that my son's short life could still leave gentle fingerprints on the world. People sometimes ask whether I regret refusing to reopen old relationships. I don't. I also don't celebrate the distance, it simply became necessary. There are mornings when I still wake expecting to hear small footsteps racing down the hallway. There are birthdays that still steal my breath. There are moments when grief returns without warning. Those never disappeared. They probably never will. But whenever I visit my son's grave now, I no longer carry the weight of proving my worth to people who measured love by convenience. I bring fresh flowers. I sit beside him. I tell him about the families his memory continues to help. Then I leave, knowing that although I buried my son alone, I refuse to bury my dignity with him.